What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to be getting into how Brands Meet Creators came to be, my entire backstory, how I went from going to college, classic corporate job, to starting my own company. I'm going to be getting into an experience I had basically working for a company that I saw go from zero to about $500,000 a month in just about a year, and then how I watched the entire thing implode on the back end. And why that kind of left a scar on me, but how it actually has been really, really helpful. I'm going to get into how the Brands Meet Creators business model has changed over time, and specifically one email that changed my entire life, changed the entire business model and the entire future of the company. I hope that the audio is pretty good on this. I'm, using a new mic today, but we do have a lot of construction going on out here. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background, but yeah, there's been a ton of construction going on in this town in general. But yeah, we got the buzzsaw going on or whatever that is. All right, but I'm gonna start this off, just quick backstory. So whole life kind of went the traditional route, right? Went to college, studied math, always kind of wanted to get into the tech, analytics type space. Graduated 2017, moved to New York, got a nice job up there. I was doing marketing analytics. And I would say probably 6 months into working in New York, I realized that this wasn't the long-term plan for me. It's not what I truly wanted to do. I kind of always had a little bit of the entrepreneurial itch to me. But in New York is when I really found out that okay, that's what I wanted to do. However, I had no idea how, right? I had no idea how to get started down that path, how to make that transition. It seemed like it was almost impossible to do. And so this was kind of my, we'll call it side hustle phase, right? Where I was just trying, thing after thing after thing. My roommates and I, we had a print-on-demand t-shirt company that we ran for a little bit. I had different products that I would try to sell through Amazon. I was growing Instagram theme pages. I tried to start this chatbot company. I tried to start a marketing agency, dozens and dozens of things. It was every couple months, something new. Never really had any success with any of them. I mean, some success here and there, but we weren't actually making money. If anything, most of them would break even. But I learned a ton doing that, right? I learned how to grow an Instagram page. I learned how to do shout outs with other Instagram accounts and how to partner with content creators. I learned how to run Facebook ads. I learned just how to get on the phone with someone and do a sales call with the business owner. Some graphic design skills, just so many little skills I was picking up along the way that in my mind, it didn't seem like I was picking up skills, right? To me, it just seemed like I was just hitting a wall and just failing over and over and over again. But looking back on it, I see that okay, each one of these failures, I was actually picking up different skills, and I was seeing a whole different world, right? Seeing how some of these online businesses were actually run. So continued to do that for a couple years. I worked up in New York City for a little over 3 years, and during that whole time I was in this side hustle phase, going through YouTube University, as they call it. Eventually I started to buy courses. I started to take things a little bit more seriously and was all right, I'm gonna just pay someone who's doing this, who knows what they're doing, to just teach me. So I started to buy some courses, and one of them was kind of a digital marketing course, showed you how to run ads, and it showed you how to partner up with affiliate products so you could just sell affiliate products. And this was the first thing that I started to actually make money with, right? I would basically run Facebook ads and a little bit of YouTube ads, but mainly Facebook ads for an affiliate product. They were all high ticket affiliate products. And I would get, somewhere between $500 to $1,000 in commission on each one that was sold. And it was just playing a game, basically, right? Would run Facebook ads, try to get a CPA lower than the commission that you receive on the product. So for example, if I were to get, an $800 commission on a product, the whole game was just, okay, can I run traffic to this landing page? Can I create these ads in a way where I can get a CPA that's lower than $800, right? And if I could sell this thing for $400 through Facebook ads, I can make $800 commission. I would make that delta. I'd make $400 per sale. Then it's just a matter of, all right, how can we scale this up, the Facebook ad spend? And so I took it to a point where I was spending like well over $1,000 a day on Facebook ads, was making decent money, and it was enough, right? It was like enough money that like I could live off of that. And that's also right when COVID hit. So moved out of New York, moved back to my mom's house, kind of like temporarily. Things were super up in the air during that time. And that's when I decided I was going to take the jump. I was going to go all in. Had a little bit of money saved, and then also was making some money with this. So I moved to Mexico with a buddy of mine. He was doing like high ticket sales at the time, which was like completely remote, right? He would just basically get on phone calls with leads, try to close them. And yeah, that's when the whole entrepreneurship journey really, really began for me. Continued to have success with it. Basically became a huge case study for this company that I bought that course from, right? Because that's where I kind of learned the whole system and everything. And eventually started working more closely with them, right? I was kind of helping to like manage the community, helping out with some stuff here and there because I was one of the top students. And I watched this company go from basically zero, not necessarily zero. I don't know exactly how much they were making when I purchased their course. It was like not a lot, 10, 20 grand a month. I watched them scale the whole thing up to $500,000 a month. And then I watched the entire thing collapse on the back end. And that was a crazy process to witness, right? How someone can build a community that quickly and then how things can kind of turn and how things can just completely fall apart. And that left a huge scar on me, but in a good way, because I got to see, one, how this type of company, kind of like this info product company, can grow, how it can scale. And then I also got to see how it could potentially collapse. And so that, I think it has instilled a lot of like fear in me, but in a good way, because that has made me really, really, really focus on product, and it's left me with a lot of insecurities and fears around the product not being good enough. But what I've seen, what I've read, what I've heard is like that characteristic is actually super important to have. Like, for example, we could have 300 people buy our product, right? And if we get one cancellation or one refund request, I'm like still terrified from that, right? Whereas most people would kind of write that off as like, all right, whatever, not a big deal. Like, these are still amazing numbers, like all of our percentages check out. I'm like terrified every time we get one of those because I've seen these things collapse. And so I think that's really served me well, where I've just been like crazy product focused. So back to the story. It got to a point where I was kind of ready to jump out on my own again. Like, I almost got back into this situation where like, okay, I left my job to, become an entrepreneur, do my own thing. But now I was back into like almost like an employee role, although it was super flexible. I could travel, do whatever I want. Ended up taking the jump again on my own with literally no plan. I had no plans what I was going to do. I had some money saved and I was like, all right, I'm going to figure it out. And so at the time I kind of assessed like, all right, what are my skills here? Facebook and YouTube ads. Those were the big ones, right? And copywriting, but I kind of tie that into Facebook ads. And so what I decided I was going to do is I was going to start my own marketing agency, right? It was really more of like a freelance service at the time. Didn't have a team. It was just me. And so I decided to get on TikTok. I saw the power of building an audience. I read all the marketing books out there, all the Russell Brunson books and everything. And I knew that having an audience, having people that knew, liked, and trusted me was super important. And that's how I was going to eventually grow if I was going to build a marketing agency. So I get on TikTok and I just start making content about marketing. How to run Facebook ads, what Facebook ads are working, how to do YouTube ads, marketing principles, marketing just concepts in general. And just started doing that, right? I was making content every day. We'll get some interest here and there. Picked up a couple of clients. It wasn't really an agency. This was more like a freelancing gig. I I would basically do anything, right? If someone wanted me to write their ads, cool. Run their ads, cool. YouTube, cool. Google ads, sure, I'd try it out. Would basically do anything for money at that point. It was not that successful, but I was making enough money here and there to just get by. Kept building my audience on TikTok though. And what starts to slowly happen over time is the inquiries that I'm receiving are more around, hey, how are you growing on TikTok? Hey, how can we do this? Tell us something about TikTok. And I started making a little bit more content about TikTok, and things just kind of like slowly started to shift in that direction. And at some point, I actually landed my first TikTok client. And from there, I just kind of saw the writing on the wall. Like, TikTok was this newer thing back then, and there were so many people that could run Facebook ads, right? Creating like a Facebook ad agency was like the big thing at the time, and every single person and their mother could do Facebook ads, but not many people were doing TikTok. So what I decided to do was put all the focus on TikTok. I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I took what the market was giving me, right? I listened to the market, and this is something that I've really tried to do time and time again, and it served me incredibly well. But just listening to the market and being able to pivot and move in that direction. And this same concept will come up again and again in this progression, in this story. So, land my first TikTok client, right? Basically, they just wanted to get their brand on TikTok. And so part of that process was me finding content creators for them, me doing the whole sourcing, figuring out who would be a good fit for the brand, putting a strategy in place, and making sure the accounts were growing. So picked up a first client there. Then I started to like market that as a service, and then it just kind of continued. I picked up a couple more, and then started to hire as well. So I hired my first VA, and then I hired another VA, and then I hired someone from the US, and like an agency was actually forming here, right? So kind of getting away from just doing like the freelancer stuff to like, all right, I had an actual agency. Meanwhile, still growing my TikTok account. I'm also starting to land like some brand deals on TikTok. I'm starting to get some of these UGC deals kind of before they were even called UGC. Same thing with my TikTok agency. Like, we were basically doing UGC before this whole UGC term came up. And so with this process, what we were doing for these companies, they were mostly e-com brands, but we had some like we would take any type of company basically. We would go find them a content creator, put the strategy in place, help them grow on TikTok. That was kind of the process overall. And so with this, what I started to develop was a network of content creators who were interested in doing these partnerships, right? I kind of became like basically like the guy with the deal flow, right? I would have brands that come to me, I would find content creators. And so what started to happen after time is like so many content creators would come to me and be like, hey, Mike, next time you get a brand, like hook me up. I want to do one of these deals. Most of them were to be like the face of the brand type deals, I would say. So a brand would hire a content creator to basically be the face of their brand, run the TikTok account for them, right? Let's say it's like one post a day, they'd make 30 videos, the brand would pay them like $3,000 a month, right? Something along those lines. That was kind of like a typical deal that we would do. And then we would put all the strategy in place and help them grow. And so over time, two things happened. One, the agency was a pain in the ass to run. I'm not going to lie. I really didn't like doing so many calls, right? I was doing basically all the calls, the strategy calls. I would hop on calls with the creators. I would hop on sales calls. I was on calls 24/7. And I am not a calls guy, right? Fast forward to today. That's something that I've tried to like completely remove from my business model is doing calls. Now I only do calls on Wednesdays, and I'll typically just have like 3 calls, and I love it. I love how it's structured like that. But I was doing so many calls, and I needed to find like a clone of myself, and I just couldn't find that. I also am not the best manager. I know that is, I know that's the case right now. I'm getting better. Back then I was even a worse manager. And the agency model requires you to be really good at managing, because basically the agency model is just leveraging other people's time. right? You need to grow a larger team to kind of manage this whole thing. And we were making money, but I didn't like it. I was always stressed. I was always working 24/7. I couldn't ever take a day off. We scaled it to the point where we had like probably somewhere between 12 and 20 clients at a time. We also had a churn issue too. We realized that we were really good at setting up these partnerships. We were really good at getting the ball rolling. But after like 3 or 4 months, a lot of times the brand, they didn't really need us anymore, right? We put the strategy in place. We teach up the content creator. We made the partnerships. And after 4 months, we were kind of just like, just there, like keeping things floating. And they were like, hey, like, the conversations were always good. They were always like, look, thanks for like what you guys have done. Thanks for like setting this up. But like, we don't really need to pay your management fee anymore. Like, this is kind of like, we're kind of good to keep this thing going. So we struggled with that too. And then what I started to realize was probably 9 out of 10 DMs or like inbound messages that we were receiving were from content creators, right? We had all these content creators reaching out, hey, how do you make these deals? How do you find these brands? What are these brands looking for? How can I land these deals? And that was the majority of our requests. And every time I would just tell them like, hey, like, sorry, I can't help you. Basically, like, next time we have a brand, like, I'll let you know. And I started an email list just to kind of like get these people like off of me, basically. Like, hey, just sign up to our email list. Every time I get a brand, I'll send it on there. Also, however, though, I did initially I would just get on calls with content creators just to kind of hear them out, because I did see the importance of just like, again, listening to the market, figuring out what people want. And it took months and months and months of these like just signs hitting me over and over again till I finally realized, like, wait a minute, maybe I should actually try to help out content creators. But the way that, typically you would think about people doing it was more from like a management perspective, which I didn't want to do, right? Where you basically manage a creator, you handle all of their deals for them, and you take like a 20% fee. That was just, again, getting back into the agency game, but on the creator side, and I didn't want to do that. But the world that I had come from before was kind of like this info product, like course type of world. And so, boom, I don't know what it was. One day, got hit on the head by a coconut or something, and just this idea popped into me. I should just put a teaser out there and see if these content creators would want to do some type of like 8-week cohort with me where I teach them everything I know. I tell them, I give them our contract templates. I tell them, here's how these deals are structured. Here's what these brands are looking for. Here's how you can go and find them. Here's how you can grow these accounts. And so I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go at least like test this out, see if people would be interested. So I sent that email to my email list, which wasn't huge. I think at the time it was like there were a few thousand people on there. Maybe we'll call it 3,000, maybe 5,000 people on there. Just content creators that wanted these brand deals that I was sending to them. Sent one email. I said, hey, here's what I'm thinking about doing. I don't have it made yet, just kind of an idea. Shoot me a DM on Instagram if you would be interested in doing this. And I got just under 300 DMs from that email. And I said to myself, holy, we got something here. Like, this is kind of crazy. I've never had this much like attention and interest in something. And so once I got all those DMs, that's when I was like, all right, I have to like figure out exactly what I'm going to do here. So I kind of made an outline of like, hey, here's what this program's going to look like. It's going to be like 8-week live program or whatnot. And it's going to be, I think I charged $2,000 for it. Didn't even have like a landing page, barely had anything made at all. And I just started sending out $2,000 Stripe links through the DMs. I said, hey, I'm going to take on 20 people. That's it. Once the 20 seats are gone, boom, it's full. Was sending those out in the DMs, and it sold out in like 48 hours. And so that month, I think we made 40 grand, somewhere in that ballpark, which was more than we had made the previous month at the agency. And it was so much easier to do. And so that's when I was like, wow, I just made more money in 48 hours than I did last month. What I just did doesn't require a team. It also just requires way fewer calls. It's way more scalable. And that's when I was like, wow, I need to do this. Like, I got to stop doing this agency thing. This is what I should be doing over here. So kind of took, again, listening to the market, listening to what people wanted. was fine with, just trying something new out, just kind of shooting a shot, seeing what worked. And then, yeah, I ran that 8-week cohort, was really good, got a lot of good feedback. Had a couple students that just like crushed it, got really good case studies from them. And then that kind of started the beginning of Brands Meet Creators, kind of shifting away from the Brands Meet Creators agency model to the Brands Meet Creators, hey, we're actually going to be focused on the creator side of the business. So that 8-week cohort then turned into, we would do like a 4-month program, also had like a community element. We tried Discord for a little bit, then we went to school. And so that program just evolved over time. The pricing model changed and everything. And then as I continued to grow that, I realized that I didn't want to be like a course person. I didn't want to just be one of these like info model kind of like gurus and everything. And I really wanted to build like something that was sustainable, right? Something that was more tangible, something that would last a long time. And I started to put a lot of emphasis on the connection of the brand and the creators, right? The platform. So before it was just like an email list, right? Every time a brand would come to us, boom, we'd send out an email, creators would sign up for that email. And so when we closed down the agency, we still allowed brands to basically contact content creators through us. We played around with the pricing model, but eventually just decided like, hey, I want to make this completely free. That idea came from an interview I listened to with Jack Mallers, who's a big Bitcoin guy, founder of this company, Strike, basically a payments network that you can send on the Lightning rails, the Bitcoin Lightning rails, where all the payments, you can send them for completely free. And what he said really struck a chord with me. He was like, hey, look, what we could do is we could come in and, we could charge a couple cents for every transaction. But what's going to happen is another brand's going to come in, they're going to slightly undercut us because in reality, you can make these transactions for essentially free. And he's just said, hey, it's going to be a race to zero. So why don't we just start at zero? We make it completely free and we figure out how to monetize somewhere else. And then being free gives us a huge kind of first mover advantage and we build the brand. And I said to myself, like, wow, I kind of see that same thing with what we have in our network. Why don't we just make it completely free for brands and content creators to connect? We'll monetize through our course. So that's what we did, started to build the platform. Now the platform has been a massive, massive focus for us. I see that being like the huge equity value of this whole thing. Whereas the back end, right, the courses, the digital products, we've launched a bunch of other things on the back end. That's just kind of how we monetize right now. And so, yeah, that's the long-winded story with how Brands Meet Creators came to be, kind of my backstory as well. Hope you guys got a lot of value out of this one. Catch you guys in the next video.